I know y'all getting tired of seeing me in the sports bra, and I do need to take a shower. I'm just letting y'all know. It is what it is. Hey, good people. Welcome back to Beauty and the Frizz. My name is Kara. Whether you're new or returning, thank you so much for stopping by and hanging out with me. It is day 19 of Frizzmas, and I am on the mend. Now, I don't do a lot of rankings, and this caused me stress, but I was asked to rank the last 10 palettes that I tried, and I did it. So if you want to hear the rankings of my last 10, keep watching this video. Let me know what you think. And if makeup is your therapy and your love, if it makes you happy and you want to hang out with someone that feels the same way, definitely consider joining the community. Come on back now. Now let's get started. So how are you? I feel like I'm on the mend, and I am going to just keep pushing through, taking care of myself and knocking this cold right on out. Let me know how you're doing in the chat or the comment section, whichever you prefer. And you know, even if I'm feeling bad, I love being with my people. So that's where I am. Now, I was asked, oh, first of all, lip oil is the Blends lip oil. It's the blue one. I'm not sure what it's called, and it's all the way across the room. But I like this. Oh, it's my first time wearing it. I'm wearing the Adept Element 115 palette on the eyes. I do have a video with that. That was yesterday's video. So if you want to see that one, check it on out. Now, I was asked to rank my last 10 palettes, but the last 10 palettes that I bought, not anything that I received in PR. So let me just tell you really fast which palettes are not going to be included in this ranking. I am not including Bog Witch by Notoriously Morbid, Fall Magic, and Sorcerer's Smoke, which those two are both by Unearthly Cosmetics. I did get those in PR. I am also not including Denona Myricks Lightwork because I have not tried out the whole palette. I only use like 2 shades to complement a look with Xenon. So if I do another ranking or something like that, maybe I can, you know, do it then, but not right now, NRN. All right, so I'm gonna cut in to some B-roll footage real fast. I'm gonna show you the 10 palettes right now. And as you're looking at them, I was gonna see if maybe you wanted to try to figure out where I'm gonna rank these palettes. Some of the rankings may surprise you, but I worked on this for a good while today, and it is subject to change, but I think I am set with my decision. So without further ado, let's get into the ranking. And I'm starting with number 10. Now with this ranking, I was trying to figure out like what were my categories for like how I rank them. It's pretty much 3 things. It's, well, kind of. Color story is one for sure. How much would I realistically wear the palette? But now I'm kind of thinking, I don't know if that's true because I'm looking at my ranking. And performance. I really don't know how I rank these, but this is the ranking and I'm gonna stand beside it. Palette number 10, Snow Dream by Oden's Eye. Now, this palette was not a bad palette. It was not a bad performing palette. It was just a palette that I knew I had no business buying. Last year, they came out with 2 beautiful Christmas palettes, the Christmas Eve palette and the Merry Christmas palette. It restocked one time and then those palettes were gone. We did find out that they were going to be restocking the old palettes. What we didn't know, or what I didn't know, is that they were also going to be launching 2 new palettes. It was the Snow Dream palette and I think it's called Hey Reindeer. I'm not even giving Hey Reindeer a chance because I don't believe in messing over makeup that you just know you don't want. But I did start with Snow Dream because this was the one that I preferred out of the 2. And this just didn't float my boat. It didn't grind my gears or frost my cookies. It was just okay. I felt like compared to the vibrancy of the Merry Christmas palette and the Christmas Eve palette, this was just a bit dusty. And it's not, but it just felt dusty compared to the other palette. I feel like you'll understand if I get up and go get them. So that's what I'm going to do because you got to see what I'm talking about here. This is Christmas Eve, and I think this correlated a little bit more with the reindeer palette. Let me show you Merry Christmas. Christmas. That's my Michael Jackson voice. You've probably heard it a lot around this time. Okay, see that? This palette just, you know, my friend Monica always says, you can't compete when you don't compare. That's what she says. And that's how I feel. This one is it, okay? This is an all-purpose palette, an all-season palette. This one, it does give me a little bit of a snowy vibe. I just feel like it was an unnecessary release. I think that they would have just been good if they would have re-released the two older palettes. And you know what? You could have pushed something like this for a spring release or something, a winter transition to spring. Spring is here, something, I don't know what you want to call it. And the other one definitely looked more spring. So I just feel like this was a bit of a waste. And if you were going to use it as a companion palette, that's fine. But I don't know if we have a whole bunch of companion money. I know I don't. So I just had to rank that as number 10. The color story isn't ugly. The performance wasn't bad. And it's not that Oden's eye needed to try to outdo last year's release, but it is just going to be hard to top. And I just think they could have just restocked last year's release and just left it at that. All right, enough of that. Number 9, here we go. I feel so bad doing this. I just knew this was going to be everything to me, everything. Because y'all know Melt is on that struggle train, okay? And I am always waiting for that release from them that is going to put them back up in the ranks. And it just, you know how that episode of Martin where he was talking about Luther Vandross that had that curl and it just didn't quite curl all the way? That's what I feel about Melt. It's like they're right there. And then somehow it just, and that's how I felt about this palette. This palette had the potential to be everything. I've only done the 3 looks that I've done, and with these palettes there's only one that I've come back and used a bunch of times, but it's enough for me to have a good opinion on it. This is not a palette that is gonna be good for me alone, unless I'm doing a one and done, and I'm not even sure about that. And the reason that I'm not sure about this palette as a one and done, there's a couple of reasons. One, the shades appear to be a bit patchy. And this is an eyeshadow palette. I checked just now. It is not a pressed pigment palette. And they performed, these mattes were reminding me a little bit of how I felt when I first tried the Give Me Glow shadows like a couple of years ago. They weren't blending, or I was blending so much that I was blending the shadow away. I had some fading with this, and the surprising thing about it is that Melt is known for having spectacular mattes. So this, and also 420 where we had an issue with some of the mattes, it's always really baffling to me because that is what Melt does well. They do their mattes very well. I mean, I can go through several palettes I have of Melt and talk about how great the mattes are. Oh my gosh. Also, the other thing is that these shades, like, it looks like a lot of royalty, but on the eye, I don't know, do eyeshadows oxidize? Because I swear these shadows showed up so much darker than they appeared in the pan, almost black. And I had the same issue with the Gemini 2 palette, where shades that look different in the pan were showing up on me and they just all look the same and they just look really deep. I mean, even this blue right here, really deep on the eye. This shade right here, this one, I mean, it does not look like this on the eye. It's like magic. I cannot explain it. I don't know what it is, but between that and the fact that the shadows are hard to blend, and with shadows like this, you need to be able to blend them. You need to be able to diffuse them out because everybody's not going to want to wear the shadows this built up. I'm so annoyed. I just got some of the shadow on my nose. I tried to wipe it off and I don't know if it's all the way off, and I'm looking and I can't tell. So just ignore that if you see that my nose looks dark. What I was trying to say is that everybody may not want to wear these shades as deep as they are, and you want to be able to diffuse them out if you want to. I've really been into that lately, and you just kind of can't. So this was really disappointing, and I'm sad because this had all the makings to be that girl, and I just think I might be using it with something else, but it's not even going to be a good companion if the mattes don't look good, you know? So we'll see. We can see what a one and done would look like. I mean, this was a great choice. The concept, Fatally Yours, naming all the shades after poisons. I mean, it just had all the setup to be perfect. So I don't know. It's number 9 though. It's really disappointing, but it is what it is sometimes, you know? Makeup letdowns. Well, we can be let down by worse things. So, you know, I'm not that mad. So that's number 9. Ooh, okay, palette number 8. Palette number 8. And this palette, it's hard because none of these, well, that palette wasn't great. But the rest of them, they're not bad at all. There's nothing bad. So let's talk about palette number 8. This palette took me 2 months to get. So y'all already know what brand it is. What? Notoriously Morbid? Yeah. Yep, 2 months. Gold Dust Woman. This palette isn't bad at all. It's actually really nice. But that's all I can really say about it. It is classic Notoriously Morbid. The formula is Notoriously Morbid. I think the only thing that somebody might not enjoy is, oh my gosh, how powdery the mattes are. And this one is really, they're all powdery, but this one especially, I just feel like it's really powdery. And I know that's not everyone's cup of tea, and sometimes it's not mine. I like it. It's indie basic in the best way. But when it comes to the other palettes in this ranking, that's where this one falls. But I really do like this color story by Notoriously Morbid. It is a palette I could wear every day. And I remember one of the looks that I did where I used this shimmer right here. I really liked it. I almost was like, did that look come from this palette? So it's a great palette, y'all. I don't even know if it matters that I'm telling you that it's great, because I'm sure it's gone. And that's another issue that we don't have to talk about. But that is why this one's number 8. There's really nothing wrong with it. It's just not a super standout in this particular list, but I do like it. Palette number 7 is the Twisted Tea Party from Ensley Rain, or by Ensley Rain. Now y'all know I love me some Alice in Wonderland, so you're probably like, this is number 7? Yeah, it's number 7. I like it. It's great. Don't like that it doesn't have a mirror. It definitely, to me, encompasses Alice in Wonderland and all the colors and whimsy of the story. I just don't think this is a palette that I'm gonna reach for like that. I do like wearing color, you know, I do. But like some of these colors, obviously the blues, this bright pink, things like that, they're just okay for me. This side of the palette, oh my gosh, I love this side of the palette, coupled with some of these other shimmers. I just don't see myself going for this palette a whole lot. And if I do want this kind of color story, I just think there's other things that I'm going to reach for first. I don't know if Twisted Tea Party is going to jump out as far as something that I'm going to want to wear. I'm actually torn on the new palette. So give me your thoughts on that. The Cold Moon palette. I don't know what it is. But this palette is good. I'm swatching it now and I'm like, is this really where I want it to be? But I think when we start looking at some of the palettes that are higher up, this is just where this one's gonna fall. But there's nothing wrong with it. I actually like that this one doesn't have the hollow shades. That's what's kind of making me torn about the Cold Moon palette. I don't really care for the hollow shades too much, and we don't have those in this palette. So I really do like that. Now, another thing that I think about too, which may impact my ranking, is the price. You know, is this an $83 palette? No, ma'am. No, ma'am. No, it's not. So I do think that that may have something to do with the ranking, because I mean, performance wise, I didn't say price was a factor, but performance wise, you know, the palette was fine. Were they my favorite absolute looks? Like, I don't recall doing standout looks with this palette. Let's see, other prices. $58 for the Melt palette. No, ma'am. $45. I can see $45 for the Oden's Eye. And then I think Gold Dust Woman, that was either $29.99 or $39.99. That's pretty average for Notoriously Morbid. But $83, no mirror. It probably does have a little bit to do with my ranking, maybe. So maybe it shouldn't, but it's still a very nice palette. If you did purchase this one, let me know what you think. No issues with the palette at all. Ranking's just hard. Palette number 6 is the one I'm wearing, y'all. It's Element 115 by Adept Cosmetics. Adept is one of my favorite brands. I think that this is palette number 6 because there's another palette in this ranking that I really was trying to figure out which one I liked better, and I went with the other one. As far as the performance of this palette, beautiful, spectacular. It's not my favorite color story from Adept, but it's a different color story. But the mattes and the shimmers that Adept are coming with, especially the mattes, like this bottom row, are really going to allow for some great mixing and matching, since these are magnetic. So I would love to do some experimentation with that, because I would love to put some of these shimmers with Sumerian Sunset, with Inspired, with Seahorse. So this palette as is isn't my favorite, but this palette mixed with some of the other Adept palettes, I gotta get my label maker out and start working on labeling these, because it's gonna be beautiful. The swatches were so pigmented. This navy, these mattes and shimmers were so good. The rainbow shades, you know, you just swirl them together. There's no point of trying to do anything special with them. I was trying to swipe it all the way across and have all the rainbow shades on, but that was just too much. So these could have just been regular, but as I said in the video, they make it interesting to look at. Everything in this palette was gorgeous. I have no complaints. I would not change anything about this palette at all. But this is where it fell on the list, and I'm unsure about this being number 6. So as I keep talking, I might make some swaps. We'll see. Palette number 5. I didn't get this palette when it launched. I got it this year, but it came out last year. And this is the Apocalypse palette by Klarity Cosmetics. And this color story, y'all, this is one of the most unique color stories I think I've seen, hands down. I don't even know how to describe this one, but it's really unique. It's inspiring. This is a palette where it's like, I don't know what I'm gonna do with this, but in a really good way. And I went back and I looked at the looks that I made and just saw how different each of the looks were. I love that in this palette, because Klarity does have a couple of different shimmer formats, and some are really smooth like these, and even this one, but then some can be a little crumbly. They're almost like semi-loose, and this is the only one that's like that. But I really loved this. It was like grungy gray. This shimmer right here, I mean, if you look at it, this duochrome, it's like a flame. It's like red to orange. And I just thought this was a great one. I love the shade names. I love the theme. It just came together so well. And this was a palette that after it sold out and came back and sold out and came back, and finally this year it was on sale, and I was like, you know what, just get it. Like, you keep thinking about it. Once I got it, I was really happy to have it. It is not the easiest palette as far as creating the looks though. I mean, it takes some looking at, you know, but I really liked what I created with this palette, and I like the variety. I'm trying to decide though. I almost want to put Element 115 and move this to number 6. Only because the purple, this look, not even this one, it was a purple look I did with this palette. And I was like, okay, this is a yes. And that navy. Oh my gosh, and this shade right here. All right, I think we're making a game time switch. Let me think on that. What do y'all think? I love this one though. This one is so good. I'm probably like saying all kinds of contradicting things, but this is why I don't rank things. It's really tough. We're gonna go to number 4. Palette number 4 goes to Pretty Grunge by Huda Beauty. I think Huda does a really great job with her yearly palettes. And I know there are some similarities in the palettes that come out from year to year, but they all still have a different vibe to them. And I love that this is cool tone grunge leaning purple. Not my whole sock in the mirror. Okay. I love that about this palette. And I love that you kind of have some warmer shades here, but you have all these cool kind of grungy, taupey, purpley tones that kind of all go together. The only shade that I really didn't care for too much is this one. This doesn't even make a good eye base for me. It totally faded and creased. It faded, it creased, it faded and disappeared. So that's the only thing that I didn't like. This palette allows you to create some easy, cool tone looks. You can make them every day and you can make them glam. I really liked all 3 looks that I created with this palette. The variety is not gonna be what you're gonna get from an Apocalypse or a Twisted Tea Party palette, but to be honest with you, on a day-to-day basis, this is what I'm gonna grab because I really don't have a lot of time. I do my filming in the morning, but if there's a time where I'm not filming, I'm grabbing a palette like Pretty Grunge or Biba or something like that and just using 1 or 2 shades. Like, I'm not doing these intricate looks. I really like this because I've recently gotten into cool tones, and this is like a great cool tone palette for doing like those smoky, bold eye looks. And I'm really into those. And I just love that there are some hints of purple in this palette. I just think she does a really good job with these palettes, and I hope she just continues to do the one big palette a year. It gives me something to really look forward to from her brand. So Pretty Grunge is number 4. So this next palette is the palette that I was kind of putting up next to Adept and trying to figure out which one went first. And I'm kind of surprised at this and surprised that it's number 3. But it goes to the Cosmic Brushes Wonderland palette. I don't know what it is because y'all know about me and the blues. There is something in this palette that's really ethereal that the Adept palette doesn't have. And that's why this one ranked higher. There are these pastels that I was using in the looks to blow out the deeper shades, and the way that it looked was just so beautiful. I mean, this is Winter Wonderland. I just thought it was really well done. Like, you have all these gradients, and even though they're not, you know, lined up that way, you have all these beautiful gradients. Some of the blues in here were really unique for me to try, like this one. I also love these kind of green blues. This one right here I really like, Peaceful. It's almost like a cool toned teal. I don't know if I'm describing these colors accurately. We have the 2 duochrome shades, and sometimes that's all you need. Sometimes you can just do regular shimmers and just have 1 or 2 duochromes, and like, that is fine. It doesn't have to be all shifty. The one shade that I really liked that surprised me was the shade Frost, because it's this icy blue silver. I had a really good time with this palette. And again, it's the ethereal looks that you can get with this that really gave it a leg up over Element 115, because I could create that with everything that was here. Even with this look from Element 115, I did take my Hourglass powder to kind of blend out the blue shades because I just wanted them to be a little bit softer. But here you have everything to make the really, really soft looks. So I'm trying to decide on priority brands, and I don't know, Cosmic brushes, I don't know if I would call them a priority brand, but I have had like no issues, and I've only tried this palette and the Serenade palette. But when I tell you, like, this palette was what, $37, and then with the shipping it still was less than a lot of these other indie palettes. And I don't know, I don't think this is a handmade formula or anything like that, so it just shows like we don't have to pay an arm and a leg for good quality. So it's just something that I'm just putting out there. This is definitely one that when I think winter, when I do my winter palettes for next year, this is going to be in that ranking. Like there's no way it couldn't be. This is a standout for me. Yeah, number 3. Can't believe I'm saying that, but number 3. Palette number 2 goes to Lethal Cosmetics and their Midnight Serenade palette. This palette is so good. And I just love how there are so many different looks that you can do. This one is magnetic, 15 shades. The palette is like nice and petite. And again, you've got variety. You've got neutral, you've got mauve, you have this navy shimmer here, you have a black so you can make things smoky, you've got a brown, you have these shades I know look a little similar but they are different. And this is a beautiful transition shade here, but you can diffuse these other ones out to be transitions and they won't blend away. I think everything in this palette really worked well together. There are some duochromes here. Some of the shimmers are just regular shimmers, but the formula is fantastic. Every curated palette from Lethal that they've come out with, I've really liked. The only one that I didn't really care for too much was the Wildflower palette. But I have 3 Lethal palettes that I created myself using their palette designer. I absolutely love them. I have the Evergreen palette. I have Night Flower. I have Metamorphosis. And now I have this one. I'm going to be looking out for Lethal next year. Not when they come out with their like single shadows that they put in the palettes, not those, but these curated palettes with the whole theme. These are the ones I'm going to be looking for next year. This was $45. Have I seen some of these shifts before? Yes. Like this one, Tempest. This is like the blue brown. Okay, we have seen that. I do have an indie shimmer like Continuum, but the combination and how well these shades worked together and just like how many different looks you can create really put this up in the ranking for me. As soon as I started ranking, I knew this was going to be number 2 because y'all already know what number 1 is. So we're not even going to play these types of games. But I love this palette. I'm so glad I took a chance on it. It kind of was a surprise release. And Lethal's so finicky sometimes because Lethal also had those 7-Up palettes. And I didn't buy those because I was just like, what is this? Like, I cannot. I will not. Like, those I'm not buying. But like these types of color stories, I really love it. And this can be glam. This could be everyday. You can keep it basic or you can make it special. And that's what I love about this palette. It's kind of earthy in a way. And I really love that. That's number 2, Midnight Serenade. So palette number 1 and I, as Carisha would say, we go together real bad. It is Natasha Denona and the Xenon palette. And I think this one just caught me by surprise because I didn't see the vision. I didn't understand. I didn't know what was going on. But no more. I know what's going on. Xenon was just probably the surprise of the year for me. This is never something that I imagine would be number 1 in a ranking. So let's talk about why this is number 1. I think it's number 1 because I can't stop using this. This stands on its own and it's a good companion palette. I have used this palette with the Lightwork palette. I have used this palette with the Seahorse palette. I've used this palette with All I Ever Wanted. I can't remember what else I used. I've used this palette with the Notoriously Morbid Mothman palette. So, I mean, you can use this with anything. I love, like, this is so cool. And like this contrast with the warm shades and the dual chrome shimmers, because this in Element 115, you will not be able to talk to me. Like, don't talk to me. The thing that I like about this palette the most is honestly that it did not look like the promo pics. The promo pics look like black, white, gray, and this bright pink. And that is not what it is. There are no blacks in this palette, which I was like, wow, there really are no blacks in this palette. You have a charcoal gray, you have a couple of those different finishes and formats. You've got a blue here, really beautiful, one of my favorite shades. Sposh, one of my favorite shades. You have cream to powder, you have wet effect. You have this shade right here, which is like the perfect transition shade for this palette, Flurry. It's almost like a beige gray, a greige, I think that's the word, kind of. Blizzard, like Blizzard is more gray, but this is like a beige gray. And this palette just really surprised me. This shade right here, great for a matte inner corner. Snowbow is also very beautiful. It's really not, it does have a pink tint to it, but it's almost like gray pink or lavender pink. It's just really well done. The formulas in this palette are real pretty. I also just like the vision. I like the words that were chosen. I looked up the vocabulary because I hadn't heard a lot of these words before, and I'm like, okay, Tasha didn't just throw this together. Like, I'm just thinking she just coming out with whatever. Like, she's Natasha Denona, everyone's gonna buy it. But like, no, I don't feel like she just came up with whatever. Although every single color story that Natasha Denona comes out with isn't for everybody, like the pastel palette, you know what I mean? I can say that she takes chances and does a lot of different color stories, because you have pastel, but then you have something like Xenon, but then you have an earthy palette like the Yucca palette. You have Circo Loco that has vibrant colors. You have the Love palette. You have Bronze. I mean, you have the Retro Glam. That wasn't a favorite. But then you have Retro, which was really nice. My Dream was really nice. So Natasha Denona is really kind of creeping up for me, low key, but it's not surprising because I have so many of her palettes. It's almost like it is really sliding into the #1 spot because I'm really liking the vision. I mean, am I gonna get every single color story from Natasha Denona? Probably, because I really like it. And I think that part of it is what I want to get into, and I've said this before, is I have seen online so many beautiful rearranged color stories from Natasha Denona where people have taken shades from different palettes. So I do have all my Natasha Denona palettes labeled, I want to say except for this one. There are shades in every Natasha Denona palette that I really like. I may not like the whole palette, but there are shades in each one that I really do like. And making my own palette and themes I think would be so fun, or even just recreating some of the ones that I've seen, because I like take screenshots of them and I have them in my phone. In fact, she needs to just sell like a component. She needs to do that. That would be a good idea. Tasha, just sell the component. Then we can just, you know, mix and match, because it's a great concept. And, you know, having the little holes back here, if you just poke them out. I mean, she makes it really easy, and I just like seeing the vision. This is my baby right here. And a year ago, I would have never said that about anything that was cool toned. I always felt like, nope, I'm warm tone, whatever. But no, I have really fallen in love with the cool tones this year. And that's why this one's #1. And I'm gonna stop talking about Xenon so much. You're gonna be like, oh, here she goes, Xenon again. I'm like, yes, because this was just the shock of 2023 for me. And it came at the end of the year. That's my ranking. But I wanna go back, because the only ones I'm just having trouble with is our Element 115. This is so beautiful, y'all. But so is Apocalypse. And it's hard because Adept has so many more shimmers in this palette, but let's just do a little swatching real quick of Klarity. So I can just, I mean, Klarity just, oh my God, Klarity got me. They got me with the scavenger hunts. They got me with the 35% off. They just got me. They got me all around at the end of the year. Because I don't buy a whole lot from Klarity at all. But I done got, what, 2 palettes for free. And then I got Komodo coming. Oh my gosh, so gorgeous. See, the Adept shimmers though. See, Adept, when they have... Alright, y'all, we about to make a change. I'm just watching a few because... yeah. They're all so beautiful, and these are really unique, and the color story is really unique. But when it comes to like, what am I gonna wear? It's gonna be this one. It's gonna be Adept. Okay, we're gonna put Adept as number 5. Element 115 is number 5. Apocalypse is number 6, y'all. This was really fun. It really had me thinking about my palettes and why I like them and what I like about them. I am really glad that Klarity decided to make their palettes smaller, because this, I mean, it's slim, but the pan sizes are outrageous, you know, and nobody's panning those. You only need these shimmers, you only need but so much to, you know, be effective, you know. My new baby is number 5. I think Twisted Tea Party should stay where it is. Yeah, all right, that's it, because I could change all of this if I keep thinking. So that is gonna be it. I hope y'all enjoy hearing me run my mouth about palettes, because I could run my mouth about palettes all day and night. I'm good with my list. And let me know what you think about these palettes. Do you have them all? Do you have some of them? And let me know what you think about my ranking. And if you want to see more of this type of video where I rank a certain amount of palettes that I tried, let me know. I would love to do it. It's stressful, but I will do it. I will do it for my people, because I love y'all. And I love thinking about my palettes and pulling out things that are in my collection. Thank you so much for taking out some of your time and hanging out with me for another day of Frizzmas and just another day together, y'all. I hope this was therapy for you. You know it is for me. And until I see you again, make sure you're being gentle with yourself. Talk to yourself nice. Stay safe. And I will see y'all in the next one. Bye.